Let's start with the biggest question. Is No Rest for the Wicked the Breach actually better than the previous version? Yes. A big loud yes. It took me around 20 hours to finish the entire campaign, and I really took my time exploring all the areas, both the new zones and the old ones. They've added tons of new smaller regions to the old zones too, which makes it all feel much bigger. Then I spent another 10 hours just farming the plague-infested zones to upgrade my gear to the maximum and exalt my stats. I love this change. Before, the exalted mechanic was tied to the crucible. Now the Watcher handles it, and it's way more rewarding and challenging at the same time. That said, the crucible feels a bit outdated now. If you want to unlock stat respects, you will need to do a bit of crucible, and you can also find the home portal item at his shop. The new gauntlets feel amazing. I played through the entire campaign using just those. They're fast, fun, and feel great to use. I also love the masterwork system. At first, before the patch dropped, I thought building around gems would be a nightmare, since they drop randomly. But in reality, this system gives you more control over your build, and it's a much cheaper option for early game setups. Now, in my opinion, plague items are still better overall, since they offer more powerful effects. But the problem is getting those effects. You have to burn fallen embers, and those are even harder to find than gems. I spent like 20 embers just trying to get one good effect on a single gear piece. So to summarize, masterworks are great for early game and budget builds, and plague gear is best for endgame, but expensive and RNG heavy. Overall, the game feels more serious now, more exciting, and most importantly, it feels fresh. I actually don't mind when old mechanics get reworked into new systems. It keeps the game alive and gives us more stuff to explore. The new bosses are an absolute blast to fight with, the Lost Huntress being my favorite. That fight was surreal, emotional, exciting, and unforgettable. It wasn't just a boss fight, it came with a beautiful, tragic backstory that stuck with me. The caretaker was cool too, but honestly, compared to the Huntress, it felt like something was missing. Maybe it was just the setting that made the Huntress boss stand out more for me. The sound design also deserves credit. Each boss sounds and feels completely unique. The weapon hits, and all the animations have some really solid sound effects, making the entire experience very responsive. The music, on the other hand, is a bit lacking. I found myself exploring the world, and sometimes there was no music. The wind and nature ambience was still there, but entering a boss fight from no sound to a big, loud, epic music felt a bit lacking. Not sure if I just had a bug where the music was not playing, or if this is the intended way. The boss fight's music is so epic and amazing that you kinda want to hear more soundtracks in the rest of the game. Now, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. The game's art style is amazing, unique and never boring. The Breach patch made it even better by adding 2 new regions. The Lowland Meadows, that feels like a rugged, battle-worn countryside filled with broken roads, abandoned farms, and crumbling stonework that feels lived in and harsh. And Marin Woods, a dense, shadowy forest lit by faint glows that create a strong, moody, and mysterious atmosphere. Now let's also talk a bit about the hunger mechanic. It personally did not affect me, but my friends constantly complained about how they have so much food, and they can't use it when it matters. They were specifically complaining that they couldn't take on enemies a few levels above them and ran out of healing way too quickly. But once you upgrade hunger to level 10, it becomes manageable. And in the late game, I'm barely even using food at all. Now, a lot of people compare this to Souls games like Elden Ring. Please stop. It's not the same. In Elden Ring, you rest at a bonfire, get the health flasks back, and then try again until they learn the boss mechanics. I got a friend from work who is a big Souls fan. He just started playing this game for the first time, and here is what he said.
I spend more time grinding for food than fighting bosses. It kinda disrupts the fun and it slows down the pacing. Man, I just want to fight the boss, not waste time on gathering weeds.
Now, I totally get that this mechanic is probably designed for multiplayer, and honestly, I can't say if it's good or bad. I personally enjoy the challenge and the grind, but others might not. It also didn't take me a lot to beat the bosses. They were relatively easy, especially if you are going into fights with good gear. Now onto the bows. They are completely useless right now. I even tested an endgame build with exalted gear, and bows still feel terrible. They use focus instead of stamina, and even though they lowered the focus cost in a recent hotfix, it's still not efficient. Any melee weapon with a ranged rune just does a better job. You have to hit enemies in melee just to generate focus to shoot your bow. Why not just use a wand or staff at that point? Right now, bows are only good as stat sticks in your offhand for passive effects. In the previous patch, we'd use enchanted torches. But since torches can't be enchanted anymore, people will probably just use bows just to get those extra passive effects. I absolutely love the new wands and staffs. I'm still not happy that I have to use melee in order to get focus, but they do an amazing job at how they are now. To be clear, I don't mind if magic weapons require melee. If the intended design is hit the troll up his ass with your stick, then cast a spell, I'll do it. But most players will hear the word wand or staff and expect a caster playstyle, not a caveman cosplay. I really think wands should really be called magic swords. Most of them even look like little blades. And staffs, maybe they should call them magic clubs. I really think magic and ranged weapons should have a very low damage ranged attack that uses stamina and generates focus. This ranged weapons should also have a restriction on using heavy or even medium armors, and maybe even have a maximum health decrease or limit the maximum health they can have. This way, if you want to go play as a ranged caster, you are technically at a disadvantage when it comes to your defense. You can shoot from afar, but 1 or 2 hits and you are dead. This balances the range from melee. Players who are good will have an easier time with either of them, but players who are trying to cheese the game because they can't pass a certain boss will still have a hard time. I think this will balance the ranged weapons and also add another layer of depth to the armors. But again, this is just my opinion, and even if they decide to keep the game exactly as it is, I'll still love it just as much. No Rest for the Wicked already offers so much content and enjoyment that no matter what wild changes they make, it won't change how much I enjoy playing it. One more thing I should mention is that the staff I'm showing right now, the Endless Winter Staff, the third attack of it, actually shoots a projectile. Maybe they should rethink the mage weapons around this idea because I think it works really well. Unfortunately, this third attack doesn't generate any focus. Let's talk about the chests. Like I said before the breach patch, increasing the number of stack items is not a fix. My house still looks the same, full of boxes everywhere. It is better but still messy. I use one chest for food, another for materials, and a couple more for extra materials. On the left side, I save interesting weapons or armor I want to keep. I also have a chest just for gems. I also have chests upstairs with more weapons, save up for different builds I want to try. I honestly think they should implement a system like Path of Exile, with one chest with different tabs. And then there's the only piece of furniture that actually gives a reward: my bed. Resting in it gives a health buff. Another thing worth mentioning is the Danos Workshop project. I think it was meant to be the first project you work on, but it'll probably be the last one anyone actually does. It requires food, and most players don't want to waste valuable food on a project instead of using it in combat. Some of the ingredients are also hard to find. For example, I still haven't found the recipe for fruit pie. Maybe they should lower the requirements or swap them out for materials that are easier to get. Now for the bugs. I had a few weird ones. In some new zones I got stuck in the most random places. A few times I even clipped through the floor and died. During rune attacks, sometimes my weapon would randomly swap mid-fight. On the Caretaker and Tusk boss fight, if I got too close to the bottom left side of the arena, this screen would go black. The audio will sometimes cut out completely, and I don't just mean the music, but also the ambient sounds and weapon effects. It only comes back after I exit and restart the game. I think the funniest bug I've seen in this game has to be the giant ball's crossbow. I've run into it twice. Each time after the enemy fires, their crossbow keeps getting bigger and bigger until it takes up the entire screen. And that's pretty much it. My enjoyment of the game is at its peak. I go to work thinking about this game, counting down the hours until I can play again. That's the mark of a great game. I'll be making more videos soon, breaking down final bosses, patch changes, and of course, builds. If you liked this video, consider subscribing. And if you've got any questions or feedback, drop them in the comments. Thanks for watching.